Welcome to Mindful Everyday. This is Amanda Deitsch.
Hi, I'm Amanda Deitsch, and I'm part of the team in New York at DeRose Meditation. I want to share some thoughts about the small stuff. We talk a lot about relationships here, how we can make them better. You often hear people say, don't sweat the small stuff, or God is in the details, or you can't do the big stuff if you don't first learn how to deal with the small stuff. So the small stuff is a thing, right? What does this small stuff really have to do with relationships? What's it have to do with meditation and mindfulness? After all, that's what we're all about here at DeRose Meditation. You might be thinking meditation is something for me. It's something I do on my own, and it's about helping me focus, concentrate, get more clarity. It's a me thing. I want to explain how these techniques are also a we thing, and how they have relevance in your daily life and in your relationships. First things first, self-knowledge is really only of value if you can use it to change the world around you and to make the world a better place. Sometimes we can do this by paying attention to the small stuff. Have you heard the one about the cereal box on a counter as a metaphor for your personal relationship? It goes like this. If you just started the relationship, you're all loved up and it's rainbows and unicorns, and you see the cereal box that he or she left out after breakfast and you think, he forgot to put it back. No worry, I'll take care of it. And that's it. You don't give it another thought. When you've been in a relationship for longer, and maybe you're going through a rocky patch, that cereal box takes on much bigger meaning. Why'd she leave the damn box out? She knows how much it annoys me. Does she do it on purpose? Who has time for this kind of stuff? If she cared about me, she'd take the time to put it away, and so on. And that cereal box takes on monumental proportions. Man, it's just a cereal box, your friend says when you tell him. Take a break. Don't sweat the small stuff. Remember the expression, the straw that broke the camel's back? So how important is this cereal box really? You've guessed it. The importance of the cereal box is directly in proportion to your perception of its importance and what meaning you give it in your relationship. This is about mindset, which is not a fixed state. It changes, which is great because it's something that we can work on. Second, you notice that you can't control whether or not someone does or does not put the cereal box away, at least not directly, unless you threaten physical violence. And does it really matter that much? Well, in a way it does, because you are seeing this as a metaphor for a rocky relationship. Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not saying that if that cereal box were not left out on the table, that your relationship would go back to unicorns and rainbows. But how about this? What about the things that bother your partner? Are you sure you aren't contributing to her version or his version of the cereal box? You see, people underestimate the power that acting with consideration has on maintaining love. It is often the small things that not only maintain stability in our relationships, but which also kindle the embers of love. Here's a little story from my own life. I stopped drinking coffee recently, and on any regular given day, my husband makes the coffee in the morning, and we use a French press and a kettle. I kept noticing when I came down to make my tea that the kettle was empty. So I asked him if the next morning he wouldn't mind refilling the kettle after he used it for his coffee, so that when I wanted to boil water for my tea, I wouldn't have to fill it. It's a small, silly thing. The next morning when I came down to make my tea and he'd gone for a run, I found the kettle full, ready for me to make my tea. And let me tell you, I noticed. I was touched deeply that I only asked once, and he made a shift in his behavior to accommodate my request. Not that morning, but every morning since. I have been married for 30 years, so I know something about the ups and downs of long-term relationships. When he filled that kettle for me, it told me that he loves me, that he cares about what makes me happy. When someone asks you to take care of something and you do it, they feel heard, they feel acknowledged, and they feel appreciated. We all know mutual respect is the foundation of a relationship. This is true of all relationships, intimate, familial, friends, and work. If your days with small actions like this for each other, noticing what makes the other happy and showing gratitude for those small gifts, your life will not only be smoother, but it will have more love in it. If you have a pet, you know how much you love your dog or your cat, and you know from this experience that you love what you look after. You love what or who you care for, not the other way around. That's the curious thing. And your animal loves you right back. You may have heard about the emotional bank account, accruing credits and debits, and if you haven't, it goes like this. When you do something nice for someone, it accrues a credit, and when you do something not so nice, you accrue a debit. Like an ROI from your bank account, these credits and debits accumulate interest over time. This means that if you have accrued a lot of credit in that bank account, when you slip up, which we all do, you are a lot more likely to be forgiven than if your account is heavily in the red. Think about that. This brings us back to our area of influence, what we can and what we cannot control, what we can influence and how responsible we are for our actions. We can influence what we do, we can influence how we respond to what others do, and we can influence others by setting the tone of our relationship. We can also remember that we all make mistakes and that we're not perfect, and nor is your partner. The exercise of meditation and the development of mindfulness in our daily lives can greatly expand our capacity for this awareness. If you have a family, the way you behave with each other will greatly affect how your children treat others and how they will eventually behave in their own relationships. Children learn by watching and imitating. You know the old expression, do as I say, not as I do, right? Well, it just doesn't work that way. Your kids will do exactly as you do, unless they have their own epiphany and realize consciously that they want to do things differently. How you treat a person in the street, at the traffic light, at the school gate, in the supermarket, all this will be learned and absorbed. So yes, the small stuff really does matter. In my classes, I point out that breath work marks the intersection of the conscious and the unconscious. Breathing is normally unconscious, and the quality of our breathing affects a myriad of processes in our body. When we breathe consciously, we influence those processes indirectly. They carry on, although we are blind to them, but changing the way we breathe impacts the functions in our body. This in turn affects our emotions and our ability to navigate stress. It affects our mood, our health, and our cognitive abilities. Taking care of the small stuff is sort of the same. It's a little like the butterfly effect of chaos theory, where a butterfly flaps its wings in a far-off place, and the movement of the air sets in motion a myriad of tiny actions that reverberate around the world. When you brighten someone's day with a smile or a hello, that in turn may impact how they interact with the next person they meet, and so on. When I wake up in the morning and I see a message from my son wishing me a good day, my son whom I have not seen for nearly a year, my day brightens. He didn't have to send the message, but that small gesture which cost him so little is gold dust for me. So go ahead. Give yourself a green light. There is another aspect of the small stuff, and it's about life's difficulties. We've all been experiencing collectively the impact of COVID, for example. I'll use this as an example because we can all relate to this one. We're in it together. If you hadn't realized before this, life is unpredictable. It throws you curveballs, even bolts of lightning that you just could never have seen coming. Small daily victories build resilience and fortitude for the tough stuff that is everyone's lot at some point in their life. these form a different kind of accrual in our emotional bank account. How large or small the difficulty seems to you will be a function of your inner landscape, and that can change a lot. But how much that changes can be mitigated by the regular practice of meditation, breath work, visualization techniques, and other lifestyle choices like regular exercise and good nutrition. But none of these change the need to actually deal with the issue at hand. Learning to face our fears, take responsibility, build discipline with practice, big problems get smaller. As we are more able to cope, we can expand our sphere of influence to help others, not just ourselves. Some days we feel like Wonder Woman or Superman, and others we wonder why we were even born. Sometimes we don't even feel like getting out of bed. But that small act of getting out of bed, turning the amber light of our internal traffic light to green, gets you from the bed, dressed, the bed made, and into your day. Those small changes can lead to bigger steps, so that what first seemed like a bad start may transform into a productive and satisfying day by its end. When you get used to taking care of the small stuff, it's easier to deal with the harder things. And what if you really are dealing with something that is bigger than you, like COVID, for example? What if you can't do it all alone? This is when all those deposits that you paid into the emotional bank account with your close community will pay back the dividend. You will find yourself supported emotionally in the same way you have lent a helping hand to others in their time of need. Maybe you cooked them a meal when they were sick, or remembered their birthday, or picked their kid up from school when they were in a pickle. Perhaps they did something for you and you remember it now and know they need your help. How much more ready are you to offer a helping hand when someone has already helped you? You see, the small stuff is the invisible fabric of our society. It's our warp and our weft. Taking care of the small stuff does matter, and what you see is it's a win-win. I know what you're thinking. Amanda, I have so much to take care of. I do the best I can. Why are you asking me to do even more? I do not have the headspace. Exactly, we don't have the headspace. So how to clear bandwidth? I've got a little experiment to suggest as a takeaway. This is an experiment, not a new way of living your life unless you choose to do so. This is how it goes. The experiment is to think about your day in a different way for 24 hours. Most of us are used to organizing our day around priorities or a hit list. What if you ordered your day according to what you see at an intuitive level rather than the rational system we usually employ to execute our day, editing out all that we pre-decide is superfluous? What would your day be like? This is not chaos, it's a different way of giving structure. Allow the intuitive to flow, like children respond intensely to what is in front of them. Whatever you see, whatever catches your attention, take care of it immediately. What we see is what matters to us and tells us about our mindset. What if we all took care of what caught our eye? How different would our world be? If we stopped being busy and just took care of what was right in front of us. It's just a thought, it's just an experiment. So I challenge you to take a day in your life and deal with what you notice, what presents itself to you. Taken to this extreme, I know you could end up picking up cigarette butts off the floor, I know. But if you remember someone who you think might like a call, call them. If the laundry needs to be folded, fold it. If a work project is staring at you on your desk that you've been avoiding, do it. Do whatever catches your eye. It's a different way of seeing and navigating through the world, and maybe your day will be totally different than you expected. And if it is, I'd like to hear from you. So that's all for today on Mindful Everyday. Stay tuned in on our Instagram and YouTube channels for more content about mindful living.